is no such thing as the maintenance-free ship, nor the perfect human being. So both factors have to be taken into account when running a successful commercial operation.
Planning is of utmost importance because the whole idea to buy the ship was based on a long-term planning, and ships are assets which are around for quite a long time. Let us say they are around for 20 years. So I need to have an idea what is happening over this long period, and certainly if I have put up this prediction or this projection of cost, I must also control it closely to be sure that at the end of the day I achieve the results that I predicted when I started off with the venture.
To operate at the best possible value, ship owners need to estimate what a ship's costs are likely to be, whilst meeting all required standards for safety, environmental protection and reliability. That demands accurate planning by well-motivated people at sea and on shore to make the estimates and to keep to them.
If you look at the state of this has obviously never been maintained. How am I supposed to fix that?
Ah, no more cooling smoke. I can believe it.
I'll never get through this before the ship sails.
Oh, damn it. Look at what they left us to do. Why they didn't do maintenance.
From its inception, every ship is steeped in planning requirements. These will look ahead, covering a period of years, because some costs are occasional, like dry docking or refitting, and must be spread over a long period. To help both those on shore and those on board to plan and monitor costs, these are usually divided into operating costs and voyage costs. Operating costs accumulate wherever the ship is trading. These include manning and dry docking. Voyage costs, including port charges and bunkers, depend on where the ship is trading. The costs for each ship vary, but they generally break down into bunkering, port and canal charges, manning and crew costs, including victualling, capital or charter costs. Then there are technical costs, including stores, spares and lube oil, and insurance. The study guide that comes with this course looks at this in greater detail.
It's confirmed that the 2 consignments of stores have arrived.
So idea is that tell agent and they clear it in time.
To control both operating and voyage costs in all these categories, there must be good communication between those on the ship and the fleet management ashore.
We are in touch with the agent, so there's nothing to worry about on that side.
The task of the fleet management can be divided into operations, including cargo organization and coordinating ships' requirements, technical, which covers spares supply and dry docking, personnel and administration, which includes manning, payroll, and recruitment and training.
Okay, and about this radio technician whom we are sending from UK.
The teams on the ship and ashore need to understand their own responsibilities for controlling and monitoring which particular costs. Different companies will have different policies, and you need to know your company's procedures.
Put the vessel schedule on the telex.
Recently, owners had a meeting with charterers. They were quite complimentary about the ship.
They complimented. Oh, that's nice.
If you have a problem, let me know.
There is a need for careful planning at all stages of every voyage in all departments.
Number 1, our stores requirements. We are here only in Latin America most of the time, and stores are expensive, consumables.
Routes, ETDs, ETAs, weather contingencies, bunkering, stores, spares, victualling, cleaning, overtime, safety and emergency drills, even the daily menus. Some aspects of planning are evidently essential to the safe operation and legal requirements of the ship. Others, more subtle and easily overlooked, affect the general morale of the crew and have a less obvious effect on efficiency. The ship must keep carrying its cargo towards its destination as planned. A workplace with work schedules, safety procedures, environmental compliances and cargo responsibilities. All in all, a lot to be done by a limited number of people. That is the reality of running a modern, commercially successful merchant fleet.
Yeah, everything has to be stored on board, apart from the stuff we use in the incinerator.
More and more systems are becoming computerized on board, and all seafarers will need to become proficient at using business software. The fact that many procedures are predetermined helps with organizing the schedules. It speeds up the information flow on both requirements and cost analysis. But these systems need to be managed. It's a mistake to think they can manage things on their own. The master and his team at sea still need to apply judgment and experience in deciding who does what and when. They need to control procedures, monitor progress, allow for problems, and assess whether things are on the right path or need modification.
Tony, we've had a query about stores in Singapore. Could you come down and see me, please?
For example, for a ship to arrive in port by a certain date, certain procedures are fundamentally important and others follow logically. But some will only happen efficiently and on time as a result of careful consideration and advanced planning.
Many of these buoys were unlit.
Yeah.
So mark on.
Think of the necessity and knock-on effects of some of them.
Okay.
Confirming the berth,
Okay. You got your loading plan ready, yeah?
making sure the cargo or discharge plan is ready, checking all equipment needed for unloading, preparing and checking mooring ropes, asking the agent to arrange delivery of stores,
Yes.
making the ship ready for any inspections that could take place, ensuring that the right amount of bunkers are loaded.
Yes, topping up, we reduce rate to maximum 10,000.
Good planning and teamwork are essential for ensuring that the right actions happen at the right times in the right places to produce the results on target.
Oh, agent has confirmed pilots boarding on arrival.
And whatever the target, there is always a time path.
And it's about a 6 hours passage, so we're going to be having a busy schedule.
A systematic approach based on the company's manuals and checklists is the only way to get the priorities in the right order and make the best use of resources and manpower.
So you're fine, you're okay for the voyage. Planning, it's a tool by which you could monitor the other elements of good management. If you have set plans which are achievable and realistic, and still you are not able to achieve those, then you have to diagnose what's going wrong elsewhere and correct it. So that's why planning is very important, and for each officer, and I would say for each member of any organization.
I believe that planning your maintenance is probably the best way to keep your costs down and have the best and the most reliable and safest operation. The activity of planning ahead for maintenance, ensuring the spare parts are in place before you need them, making sure that you can actually do the work in the allocated time will ensure that you have the ship available for the most time, and you don't have to spend as much money repairing the damage after it's done.
Some industries plan 5 years in advance. I'm not suggesting that that should happen on a ship, but certainly actions should be planned weeks, if not months in advance. Only by planning and organizing the personnel to maximize the efficiency can you hope to turn the ship around on time and to maximize its earning power. In my view, there should be a management committee on board the ship which comprises the master as the managing director, the chief engineer as the technical director, and the chief officer as the operations director, and together they should act as the management team, planning and executing all important tasks on the ship. When you have that situation, you maximize the ship's efficiency and therefore increase its operating potential.
Remember him? He's never followed any service plan, ignored his garage's warning about engine wear, and never watched his oil pressure gauge. I know best can be a dangerous attitude. His excuse might be that he's a busy one-man operation. On a ship, there's a team to keep everything going, but they must all contribute and know what the aim is. Experienced seafarers are very good at coping with emergencies, using all their skills and training to overcome a potential crisis.
You can assume the worst and start getting men into fire suits and breathing apparatus.
They also regularly practice drills, where a well-organized plan is the only way to get results.
Just to confirm, the engine room have reported that power has been isolated from the emergency alternator room.
Long-term planning is no different, but it must include allowances for less predictable events. In planning, you need to be specific about what you want to achieve, rather than merely describing an activity or responsibility. Set your sights on results. You're probably doing more planning than you realize. Here are some very basic planning tools that you use all the time. Are you using them as well as you could be?
I want to check the lube oil filter on the generator, so it won't foul up and stop unexpectedly.
We should paint that aft end deck now, or we'll hit bad weather before it's finished.
If I replace those weather-damaged gratings with new ones made in the workshop, it will save a shipyard cost.
We've just got a telex saying there's a 6-hour delay, so we could fit in the exhaust boiler cleaning that's due.
What about you and your department? There's a useful tool to help you define your aims and plan more effectively. Ask yourself if your aims are specific. Do you know what you want to achieve? Measurable. Can you gauge how well you're keeping on track for results? Achievable. Can they be realistically completed? Not too hard, not too easy. Relevant. Do your objectives fit in with the overall plan? Time-based. Have you planned them to be completed before the deadline? Check with the study guide to see if you are SMART, smart.
Craig, have you got the passage plan for the next passage from Halifax to Suez?
Yeah, Captain, yeah, I'll just get it out, please.
We must always be prepared with alternatives, since something or other is bound to alter plans.
But the two options, obviously, the Great Circle to the north of the Azores and Rum Lining to the south.
So we have to consider contingencies when we set our objectives.
Now, we were going to the south to avoid the bad weather in the north at winter time.
The main thing is to have a plan to start with, just as you would plot a navigation course. Then alter it as necessary.
Now, unfortunately, we have a hurricane coming up from the south, so I think we might have to consider changing the passage plan and bringing her up to the north.
Yeah, sure, Captain, yeah, there's no problem with that.
Bring down the running generator, keep a good eye out for any leaks, and if you see any leaks, mention them to the duty engineer right away.
Good planning is an essential part of good management. Bad planning or no planning will waste time, resources and money.
The fuel oil filters, we'll clean them first thing this afternoon once the duty engineers swap them over.
Only through effective planning can you keep your work on schedule. Your planning must include protection against contingencies by providing alternatives.
Enter the last question.
Don't stick to routines rigidly or trust to luck. You need to allow for relief crews to take over and continue your plans.
I see you've got the planned maintenance file out, Joe. Is there anything coming up?
Yeah, I'm looking at doing the nozzles and hydrants in the passageways at the moment.
We're going to do them this afternoon?
You must make sure that your plan incorporates ways of checking how well you're keeping on target.
No, we should be okay at the moment, but it's a progressive thing. I may need some spares at the end of the trip.
The ship staff can have a great influence on the profitability of the ship by being instrumental in the planning of the dry dock. A ship normally dry docks every 2.5 years, and between dry dock periods a list of defects can be drawn up. If these are presented to the superintendent well in advance of the dry dock, and he then adds the items which the dry dock will have to also pay attention to, then it will enable him to either arrange a riding squad to attend the ship prior to the dry dock, or request that the ship staff do some of the repairs themselves by supplying them with the materials, thus minimizing the amount of time that the vessel spends in the dry dock and, of course, minimizing the dry dock costs. That has a great impact on the annual profitability of the operation of the vessel.
In this video, we've looked at planning tasks. In the next part of the series, we will look at planning time and planning the use of resources. You should now read the study guide that comes with this course. It covers organization and planning in detail.